Welcome back to AM Northwest. You know, when work feels stressful, it's easy to blame others and harder to manage yourself. Here to share a simple reset to help you when you get triggered at work, we welcome back strategic advisor and executive coach, Dr. Carol Parker Walsh. Good to see you again.
To see you too.
We just saw each other on Saturday, the YWCA benefit.
Yes.
Okay, but this is fascinating, I think, because you say it's not about fixing other people, it's about you regaining control of yourself.
Yeah, you maintaining your power and your control. You know, the thing I always tell people is the only thing you have control over in this world is yourself.
Sure.
Right? And your response to the things that are happening around you. And so when you allow yourself to be overwhelmed or let your emotions ride and you're not managing or regulating them, when you lose control, then you lose your power, you lose your authority, and you end up making decisions that give you results or give you outcomes that you really would rather not have.
Yeah. You talk about separating facts from story.
Yeah, this is a big thing, you know, which is hard for people to understand, is that your opinion is not facts.
Right? No, good point.
Just because you think something is true doesn't mean it's true. Like, you know, for example, if you're in the workplace, to say that, you know, my boss yelled at me in the office, that is a fact. My boss is out to get me is a thought, is a story, is an opinion, right? And so if you allow that opinion to ride, that takes you in a different direction than, you know, well, my boss yelled at me, there's maybe other actions that I could take around that.
Yeah, like if your boss interrupted you.
Yes,
you know,
exactly,
that kind of thing.
exactly.
Okay.
That's a fact. And so then we can work with that, and we can maybe have some different ideas around how we want to approach to handle that situation.
But it doesn't mean he doesn't respect you.
It doesn't mean he doesn't respect you, right? So we don't want to read into things, right? Just because something happens, it's our belief around or our thoughts around the circumstance or the situation that's happening is what drives things. So if you stick to the facts and don't read more into it, right? My boss interrupted me, therefore, it's everything after the therefore you want to probably let go of.
You say choose a working thought that leads to power, not panic.
Exactly. So one of the things that people do, so for example, if you think your boss yelled at you and he's out to get you, right? Some people think that they have to go from a negative thought to a positive thought. But our brains, you can't lie to yourself, right? You can't just jump from feeling a certain way that's horrible to feeling positive. So what I always say is, instead of trying to go for a positive thought, go for a useful thought, something that is neutral. So, you know, for example, if something happened or there was a misunderstanding, instead of saying, you know, like I said earlier, you're out to get me, maybe there's a lack of clarity in my understanding of what I should be doing. Maybe I need more clarity around my role and expectation, right? And so if you have a useful thought that's not overwhelming or too negative, you don't have to jump to like, no, everything is fine and he loves me, right? Everything is good. Just, well, maybe there's a misunderstanding and I need to get more clarity.
You say regulate your emotions before you respond.
Absolutely. I call it the powerful pause, right? You know, just breathe for 5 seconds, because when you are emotionally triggered, your brain fills with cortisol, your prefrontal cortex, where your thinking comes from, is hijacked.
Right.
And so you're not thinking clearly. You're just like a raw emotion. And that's where we usually make our biggest mistakes. But our thoughts are what guide our emotions, right? So if we think someone's out to get me, we're going to feel either like a victim or we're going to be out to get them. And so if we move in that space and that emotion, we're not going to have really good results. So you want to pause for a moment and find a useful thought. And you can ask yourself 2 questions. Is that thought real, right? Is what I'm thinking my opinion, or is it a fact? And what else could I think? What else could I believe about what's happening in the situation, except for the train of thought? Exactly, except for the train of thought I'm on right now.
You say choose an empowered next move.
Yes. So, right, your emotions are going to drive what you do next. So if you're filled with emotion, you may take the wrong action. So to take a powerful move, you want to ask yourself, okay, in this situation, what's the result that I want to create for myself, right? What do I want to happen? What's the outcome that I want to have? And then what's the move? What's the next step? What's the action that I would take that's going to make that a reality? And so if you think about it from that perspective, you just stop for a moment and think about what action allows me to maintain control, that it's a decision that I'm making, that I'm not feeling compelled to do or out of control. Or you hear people say, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I said that, right? It's because they allowed their emotion to just drive it, as opposed to them taking control and making a decision for themselves. And the big thing is really about understanding that all you control is yourself, and you want to maintain your power and your authority.
You talk about victim energy.
Yeah, right. So if you allow yourself to feel like I'm being victimized, you're going to always create those results for yourself, because every action you take is going to come from this belief system that people are out to get me, or they're trying to undermine me, or they're not setting me up for success. And every action you take will come out of that energy and out of that belief system.
There is a whole system you have. So let's take a look at what we talked about, which is looking at it the old way. Fact, I didn't get a raise.
Right. And so the story you could tell yourself is that, well, they don't value me.
Yeah.
And if you believe that, you're going to feel like, oh, I hate my job and I can't wait to leave. That emotion, you're going to feel trapped because you're going to be overwhelmed by it.
Sure.
And you may just quiet quit, which is you just don't show up, you don't do your best job. And then the result is that you'll still not get a raise or have an opportunity, because now you've shown up in a way at work where no one's going to give you a raise.
Right.
Because the whole story in your head about them not valuing you is making you react in a way that's not going to make you get valued.
Okay, now let's look at the new way.
Yeah. So the other way to do it with the same set of circumstances are you didn't get a raise, but maybe the story you tell yourself is, well, maybe the company's not in a financial position to offer raises right now, right? So that's a neutral thought. It's a useful thought, right? So what's one skill you may think that I could do in the interim that I can really build up and take with me? Now I'm feeling empowered because I'm thinking about, well, I can't get a raise, but what else can I do to really elevate my skills? So I take action and develop new skills. And then as a result, I may get a raise next time, or I may position myself for even a better position with a better salary and something else because I took the time to develop the skill, and it all is based on my approach to what was happening around me.
This is a really good way to look at things. Wow.
It's a different it's based out of cognitive behavioral theory, but it's a different approach to allow you to have control and power over yourself at all times, because again, that's the only thing, when everything is crazy, the only thing you have control over is you and your thinking.
There you go. I have to remind myself of that. Thank you, Dr. Carol Parker Walsh. Good to see you. We'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.